Devo, intricate.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Intricate Devo, your channel for learning programming concepts in a simple, practical and easy to understand way. In today's video, we are going to learn how to write data into files using Java. Have you ever wondered how Java applications save information such as logs, reports, configuration data or user-generated content into file? Well, that's exactly what we are going exploring today. We will start with the basic file writer. Then learn about try with resource, see how append data without overwriting existing data, understand why BufferedWriter can improve performance, and finally look the modern Files.writeString approach from the Java NIO API. So stay with me until the end, because by the end of this video you will know several practical ways to write files in Java. And before we begin, if you are enjoying these Java tutorials, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Intricate Devo, share it with your friends and leave a comment with your questions and suggestions. Alright, let's get started. Writing files using FileWriter. The simplest and most traditional way to write a text in a file in a Java is by using a FileWriter class from the java.io.package. FileWriter is designed to write a character data into the file. One important thing to remember in this: when we create a FileWriter for a file that does not exist, Java will create that file automatically, but if the file already exists, FileWriter will override the existing content by default. Let's understand with this example. We create a FileWriter object and specify the file name as a file name.txt. Then we can call the write method. So in the write method we are giving the value like files in the Java might be tricky, but it is fun enough. This text will be inserted in the file, and we have to call the close method also. If close method is helpful for save the changes. And finally we have to print a success message like success wrote to the file. But there is something very important here: don't forget to close the writer. Closing the writer ensures that the data is properly written and that system resources are released. If you are forgot to close it, the data may not be saved correctly and you could also end up with a resource leak. Handling exception. Yeah, you may have noticed that our FileWriter example used by try catch block that ensure file operation can fail for many reasons. For example, the application might not have permission to write to the location, the path may be invalid, and or another IO problem could occur. These problems are represented by our exception, so we place our file writing code inside the try catch block like this and handle the exception inside the catch block. This makes our application safer and prevents unexpected file related errors from crashing the program. Now let's talk about the much better way to handle FileWriter. Have you ever forgotten to close a file? It happens. Unfortunately, Java provides a feature called try with resource introduced in Java 7. Is much better way to handle a resource like file streams. With the try with resource, we declare the FileWriter inside the parenthesis. FileWriter inside the parenthesis of the try statement. Java will automatically close the writer when the try block finishes. So, and here the really useful part: even if an exception occurs, Java will still automatically close the resource. So instead of manually calling mywriter.close, we can let Java handle it for us. This makes the code cleaner, safer and easier to maintain. For modern application, try with resource is generally preferred approach while working with a resource such as file streams and writes. Yeah, appending to the file. Imagine you already have a file containing the important information. You don't want to delete the existing content. Instead of you want add a new content at the end. How can we add to that? The answer is append mode. When create a FileWriter, we can pass the second argument called boolean value. If we pass true, the FileWriter enters append mode. For example, new FileWriter file name.txt. Here is the boolean value true we are passing. Now instead of replacing the existing content, Java adds the new content to the end of the file. This is particularly useful for the things like application logs where new information needs to be continuously added without deleting the previous entries. And in our example we use /n. This is the /n we are using so that a new content start on new line. Next one, BufferedWriter for better performance. And now let's move to the more advanced approach. What happens if we need to write a large amount of text? Calling the writer repeatedly can result in many disk IO operations. And disk operation can be relatively expensive. This is where BufferedWriter can help. BufferedWriter uses an internal memory buffer. Instead of immediately sending every small piece of data to the disk, it collects data in the buffer and writes large chunks efficiently. And this can significantly reduce the number of IO operations. To use it, we wrap our FileWriter inside the BufferedWriter. This is the BufferedWriter. We have wrapped the FileWriter inside the BufferedWriter. So then we can call the write method multiple times. So like this, first line of the text and second line of the text. We can also use the newLine method to insert a new line instead of manually writing a new line character. So when you are dealing with a large amount of text or frequent writes, BufferedWriter can be a useful choice for improving the writing performance. Next one is Java.NIO.Files.Files. Now let's take up the modern approach API for the file operation. One particularly useful method is Files.writeString. This method was introduced in the Java 11 and makes writing simple string to a file extremely conveniently. And instead of creating a FileWriter and manually managing it, we can work with the path and call Files.writeString. So for example, we create a path pointing to the nio.file.txt. So then we create a content. In the content, we want to write some text like hello from modern nio.to API. Finally, we call Files.writeString and StandardOpenOption.CREATE and StandardOpenOption.APPEND. The create option tells Java to create a file if it does not exist, and append tells Java to add a content to the end of the file existing file. This gives us a concise and modern way to write text files. Then quick comparison. So let's quickly recap approach we have learned. FileWriter is a simple and traditional way to write a character data. Try with resource helps us to automatically close and writer avoid resource leaks. Append mode allows us to add content without overwriting the existing file. BufferedWriter can improve performance when we are performing many or large text writes. And Files.writeString provides a modern and convenient way to write a string using Java NIO.API. So which one you should use? For example, a modern application Files.writeString can be very convenient for more control over the writing streams. FileWriter, BufferedWriter are still useful. And regardless of which resource based on approach you can use, remember always manage your resource properly. And that's how you can write data to the files in the Java. Today we learned how to use FileWriter, how to safely manage resource with a try with resource, how to append content, how to BufferedWriter can improve performance, and finally how to use a modern Files.writeString method. If this video helped you to understand Java files writing, make sure to like video. If you are new to the channel, subscribe to Devo and turn on notification bell so you don't miss the next Java tutorial. And don't keep this knowledge to yourself. Share this video with your friends and fellow Java learners. If you are having any questions, examples you would like to me explain, or topics like to see next, drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching Devo. Keep learning, keep coding, and keep building. I will see you in the next video.